Peace, everyone. Welcome to Karmic Dynasty. I am here today with my brother, Zee Malachi, Paradise, brother Paradise.
Paradise. Thank you for
All right,
having me.
welcome. And I welcome you again to Karmic Dynasty today, everyone. We are here. Now, I always share how I came about the video, the broadcast. Someone called me. They called me. Brother Z, we posted like the commercial to the They Live, We Sleep series back in February. So I've gotten feedback. People have texted me, inboxed me, called me with inquiries. They even commented in the comment box. They love the music also.
Excellent.
That's what's up. Let's talk about that in a few.
Right.
Now, somebody called me the other day. That was like, Joy, you did not follow up on your broadcast. I'm like, I'm checking my I did my I don't know, no broadcast I left unchecked,
It
unbothered.
was my
And
fault.
his fault. But his fault. So anyway, I was like, well, that was a team effort. And Brother Z's so busy. He got BlackTax Solutions. Go get on the email list, y'all. He the CEO. He got things going on. So we working on another project together. So I mentioned it to him in brief. Somebody calling me out, but I wasn't even paying attention. Kind of really, I was just waiting on my brother because he's an efficient man. So when
They
he get
tried
to
to
his,
simple you.
you know what I mean? When he get to his thing, he get to the thing. In Karmic Dynasty, I'm just sitting here. We wait. We pending. We can wait. So, we're waiting patiently. So, everybody, we here. You asked for it. We here today. We are here with the pre-show. We have planned to schedule to bring the series starting this Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, for that post, I'm going to ask my brother Z to introduce himself to you all. And peace, love to you all. Peace, peace.
Zee Malachi here. What we got for you with They Live is an 80s cult-like film from one of the most prolific activists that or elder people may be familiar with. This particular person uh, who put this film together, we're going to talk about him a little later. But what I would love for you to be familiar with is the concept of this movie, They Live. So it has a lot to do with the things that right in front of us, right, right under our noses, and from the most that we're familiar with in terms of advertising that is around us all the time, we take it for granted, right? So that's the film. Hopefully, a lot of you guys have had time to kind of run to Peacock and check the streaming out. So it's available on Peacock. They Live. John Carpenter's They Live it is there. And you could also go to YouTube just to look at certain clips so you can get a taste of what's taking place. Uh, Rowdy Piper, who was a famous wrestler back then, was playing lead role. Okay, so back then, one of the most popular things for people to do, pastime, was to watch wrestling. And Roddy Piper was this very aggressive, no nonsense type of guy in the ring. So they put this guy in the movie along the controversy lines of things that, for some reason you just don't take notice of every day, right? And it was probably the perfect setting for someone as aggressive as he was uh, in his attempt to get someone who began to journey with him to open their eyes, right? And I put it that way specifically because I want you guys to think about your associates as we go through this and think about how they responded when you started presenting information that you would have loved to see open their eyes and witness the response that they would have had, right, after receiving some of the information that you were trying to convey to them. So I want to unpack all this in the most appropriate way. You know how we do, Joy. So once you guys see the parts that come into play, I want you to start preparing your questions, right? And what we would like to do is to address the questions on the day of. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Any
So let's
ideas
go.
you can toss out there, Joy, and then I kind of piggyback off of it and go in some more?
Yeah. So first, what I would like to do. First, what I'm gonna do is oh, the person who called me out, they are on the road right now, so they have to wind this run it back one day. They're not really in here. I know they had a ton of questions, so I will collect their questions and definitely bring them as we can. Right now, I'm going to share the video that was posted in February so people can get more information just with the whole presentation intro for this series. So I'm going to share that now with everyone. Peace and welcome everyone to Karmic Dynasty. I am Joy Allen. We have an awesome broadcast is dealing with a previous broadcast regarding a favorite cult classic called They Live, John Carpenter's They Live. Returning to the platform again, founder of the BlackTax Agency, Zee Malachi, who put out the call for the great private and silent assembly towards self-reliance. He will be joining me to talk about where the idea for the movie came from and how it's to global society today. Zee, let them know what you sound like.
I greet you with paradise, and I'm glad to be back. We're going to have a lot to unpack this upcoming broadcast, so I think we have enough to lay out the significant information right now.
Go ahead, give them something to think about.
Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper didn't have a name in the movie. What was his name? No one ever called him by his name in the movie. His character was based on an alien encounter comic book character named George Novel. Came from a guy they called Ray Nelson. He wrote a short story called 8 o'clock in the morning. It's about a guy who wakes all the way up during a demonstration where the hypnotist asks his subjects to wake up. He notices that there's an active effort taking place to keep humanity asleep, and he tries to reduce his exposure to it in order to remain awake. Long story short, they find out he's awake, call him on the phone, and hypnotically suggest that he's an old man and that his heart will stop 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, George died. But before he died, he found a way to wake everyone up. How he did that is the jewel of all jewels. You're not gonna want to miss broadcast.
7 luscious youths. Just
our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
They target your mind on their arrival, harvest your time for their survival and the money. They got you using the money without you figuring out and hearing it out. They got you hooked on the fear and doubt, plus a bottle of beer. Out, shed some tears that'll help you out. If you wanna know, it's all about escaping the crazy creed. Guys, keeping us all asleep.
Goddamn hacker, that second time tonight that asshole's cut in.
The movement was begun 8 months ago by a small group of scientists who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent through.
It's giving me a headache. Yeah, tell me about it. Must took the hackers months to figure out how to do this.
The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices.
Now he done gave y'all notice. That last scene said, "Don't miss." Brother Z, you put that together, right?
Yeah.
That music, vocals only, no instrumental, no instruments.
Everything's vocal.
Okay, definitely, that's what's up. So as you mentioned, the Roddy Piper did not have the name in the movie.
He had no name. Every character in the film has a name. You would not hear anybody call him by his name in the movie.
Right. Yep. Now in the credits, though, yep. So that's right. Exactly. Yeah. In the credits, they do show his name.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
What did it say?
Share it now. I'm like, how you got a name and ain't nobody saying it. It's nada. Y'all see that?
You see that?
Right here. Right here. NADA. That's his name in the movie. But nobody never said nothing.
Nobody never says his name in the film.
Mm.
Throughout the whole show. Nada. Hey, look. What's his name? I say, what's his name?
Nada.
It might go over some people's head, but Nada is like nothing. He don't have no name.
None.
Nada. You want something? Do you want some more?
Not a name.
Nada. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting. John Carpenter went through a lot of stuff to encrypt his messages. I guess he thought that was his, most creative mode, as to do something like that, not sharing the name. I guess thinking that once you have your cult fans involved, right? Because cult fans, they like to do all this research. They like to have almost every item you can think of for background representation once you come to events, like the Star Trek events and stuff like that.
Yes.
And people, yeah. So it's
the Trekkies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you sensational pieces going and everything like that. But see, he went kind of left field because your average cult fan can't get in there and say, okay, we're all meeting ourselves here at the convention, and I see that you brought your favorite hypnotist, I brought my favorite hypnotist, and there's Carrie over there, she brought her favorite hypnotist. Like, we're all gonna sit around and see if we hypnotize each other just to see what we see.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just me? Or is that something that you kind of step away from or shy away from because it seems to be crossing that line?
Right.
So that's a little bit in regards to just unpacking the movie, and you get a chance to kind of see what you're dealing with from the beginning. From the beginning, you might not notice it, but it's all encrypted, because after you realize they don't even call the guy Nada in the film. You might as well regard him as a drifter. When you see it and you see how he's traveling to the next town for work, which is what a lot of people did from the 70s on up into the 80s, right? They would leave their families and go from coast to coast looking for work, send money back home, so that the wife could take care of their family, especially if they got kids and stuff like that. And most of these people, as you will see in the clip, are involved in some type of union or some type of fraternity, right? In terms of whether or not you're gonna land a job or you're just gonna be out there without a job. That's the setting, and it's very important. Right now, we're in what we can regard as a recession, right? Well, that was getting smashed with recessions around the 70s and the 80s, all right? So these guys really did need some work, right? When you look around and try and ask yourself, well, what's really taking place in society? Like, how are people getting along? There are programs, number one, to keep people stable, right? But what do people do who aren't stable, right? Now, just in case you think you're stable, right? Like you really believe that your work ethics and your ability to meet the means of you being a responsible person. I mean, you're gonna do what you have to do to take care of yours, right? Just in case you think that is substantial enough. Here we have John Carpenter presenting to you in this film that it's probably not the case, right? That you're actually being subconsciously led to perform in a particular way, so much so on a massive scale that the entire society is on hook this particular way. So what takes place is some glasses, some shades reveal this particular issue, right? Once that takes place, you see a whole new flow of messages come in place, which is why I chose to put that in the ad for the talk show that's going to be taking place later on. You saw that the part of the ad where the frequency was being broadcast and the guy sitting in the park was catching a headache, right? You ever notice when people start speaking and they seem to be pulling information from a particular frequency? Let's just say, they are freestyling, but everything sounds logical, right? And they appear to be managing through a headache. Let me see. Sometimes when people do that, right, it's common, but they're trying to hide the fact that they might be catching a little headache, right? So anyone who's experienced that can type and say, "Oh yeah, okay, that's happened to me. I caught a little. I could feel a little sting, trying to pull certain thought manifestations through so that I can convey myself clearly. How shall I put this? Let me see. Like that's going to magnify your ability to convey the message that you want to convey. So the frequency is taking place, and for the most part, it's to shut people's ability to think down and submit to the frequency for them to be obedient. What's some of the other messages that you recall, Joy? Marry and produce.
Marry, produce, obey.
Let's see what else they gonna show us.
They had one, I think it was Eat on the movie on the magazine stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. A load of messages.
Shop, spend money, stuff like that.
What this gonna say right here? He gonna put the shades on, right? So let's see what he sees.
No independent thought. Consume.
You see? So it's like, think again. If you believe you're having independent thought, obey, consume. Everywhere you turn, these messages are present.
Yep.
Ain't till you hit about 13, maybe 14, until you start hearing words like subliminal messages and how it's associated with commercial advertising. Isn't that something?
Here they have submit, cooperate, obey authority, doubt humanity, follow, no ideas, submit, watch, honor. It's just, surrender is down here.
Look at that.
Marry and reproduce.
Ooh, a rack of messages.
Yep.
That's the whole rack.
Stay asleep. Stay asleep.
A lot of people thinking they're awake, but you don't know what type of frequency you might have been born into this world dealing with. A sleep frequency. What is actually your actual live vibratory state? What is that? Stay asleep, obey. What is the vibratory number associated with the frequency for a biological entity, a living entity, active?
I cannot get that. This one right here I'm trying to get is the watch TV and no imagination.
See that? Crucial.
This is a big one for me right here.
Talk about it.
Yeah, because our some of us place our children in front of the TV and take away their imagination, which ultimately reduces who they are and takes them away from their true selves. So just replace their imagination with the imagination and no independent thought, the ideas of others of the program. So they watching colorful ponies on the screen instead of knowing how colorful they are.
Right.
For example, they watching little characters, made up characters with magic instead of knowing the magic that they are.
That's right.
And then someone or I saw a post, they were talking about being in school. Yeah, it was a video I saw on YouTube recently, being in school and how the little boy walk up and tell the teacher he's a superhero. And the teacher's like, nah, you ain't no superhero. You need to go sit back in your chair. He's telling you who he is. So you're denying him who he is. He can't even express himself. So then he lets go of the knowledge that he's a superhero and runs in line with the rat race.
Right.
Just pick, he's a number.
That's the name of the game. They need all those minds in a line.
Can you talk to us about the alien banquet scene near the end when they found underground where they were at, like their hive?
So this right here, this goes into a whole nother. I don't even know why John Carpenter kind of just left that out there like that, but there's a whole underground, way back in the 80s, right alongside with the activists, you had this whole underground UFO fanatic society. They still exist, okay? And so one of the things that we often talk about is how the elite society was being used, right? Because extraterrestrials, or what they would call these starship network of aliens, were creating stargates that go, anywhere in the universe that you can think of. And so one of the the stargates that exist on Earth had a lot to do with how the elite manage themselves and people who they would make sure were servants to these people, right? So you see the Stargate, you see the people leaving back and forth, but the way it's presented in the film is with the drifter, we're talking about Nada, and Frank, that's the black guy, sneaks their way down into this underground society, right? Peak game on that, first off, right? Because in order for all this to be revealed, excuse my my distractions here, but it actually went underground. You recall? They actually went underground.
Yes.
And so going through corridors and certain paths, they actually catch a glimpse of the portal. So here we are, without too much explanation in the film. The guy who is well, we might as well call him some type of a concierge service, is standing there explaining certain things. You get to see how these people have an operation that involves a Stargate, and they're awarding people in the room prior to arriving at the Stargate. They're talking about how well they're doing, what they're going to do in the future, and stuff like that. So all these people are sitting here as elite, enjoying the comforts that they're able to offer them, simply to keep this whole procedure a secret, right? And you can imagine because one of the things that the movie suggests you do not do, don't use your imagination. They put these through to make sure you don't use your imagination, which is why they encourage you to watch TV. All right. So try, if you might, to imagine, right, why all of this is put together in the film in the first place, right? So if you have people who say, let me just say extraterrestrials, so it'll be clear, right? Because they look like people in the film, but they're actually supposed to be extraterrestrials, okay? If you have extraterrestrials who promise you an elite status, we can show you how to be elite amongst your own, right? but we have a prerequisite. We have a protocol, something that you must meet. No excuse, right? Your society must be asleep. They must remain, oblivious.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you use that imagination to say, okay, they don't want, too many people knowing what they're doing because a lot of people in your business means possible interference, right? That's like a basic principle. Keep these guys asleep. We need to make sure our excess from destination A to B is not, interfered with, right? Which kind of makes you wonder, well, what else exactly do you have going on if you want to keep this on the hush hush, right? And what are how far are you willing to go to keep things on the hush, right? Now I say that I don't want any of the viewers to think I'm blowing smoke, because right in the beginning, you see a poverty situation which connects to the end, what they are willing to do to keep everything the way it is, and that's just killing folk. All right. So Frank lost his life at the end. Like, what kind of message was that sending? So what they're willing to do to keep this thing on the hush hush, right, is a scary thing. And the way John Carpenter wanted to present it, right, is quite different from the short story that took place, right? Because the death that took place from the person who had his eyes open after the whole stage, the entertainment on stage about putting people to sleep and then waking them back up. I mean, hypnotizing them, right? And then waking them back up out of the hypnotizement, and with one person never really snapping out of it, right? So his works never did really put him back to sleep. So you got a person that's walking around able to see everything, right? We're talking about the story from which they lived came from, all right? This is where John Carpenter got his whole story from. This guy's walking around and he's noticed by the extraterrestrial that his eyes is open. They notice that he can see, he can perceive. And they called him on the phone with another hypnotizing strategy by simply suggesting that 8 o'clock in the morning, he would have a heart attack, he would die. Okay. And that's how he died. 8 o'clock came, and he died. Now, in between that, he ran around trying to warn people, tell people, and he even tried to kill some of the folks. So this is how the movie They Live actually plays out. But I wanted to present that to you, right? Hopefully I didn't confuse you with that, just to add on to what are they willing to do to keep people asleep, right? So, if you remember, we had an event, I think right when Obama got in office, and this lady drove this car all the way up to the White House, right? Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think they shot her. Did they shoot her? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. They did.
Yeah,
They killed her.
they killed her, right? And so I don't know how they got the information about her hearing that she was hearing voices. Do you recall that? They said
Yep. And her son was in the back seat too. Her son was in the car with her, I think.
So what we're dealing with, suggestion some kind of way or not? Hypnotism some kind of way, or so things kind of get a little scary, but we're gonna save a lot of breakdown when we get into this. I think we left a lot of information which Joy played in the beginning, so you guys can see what you might want to dig into to help bring your questions out. We'll go over it again, of course, before we even get started. Next time we'll play that whole clip again so you understand the whole connection between Nada, Roddy Piper, all the way down to Ray, the whole script, the comic script that Mr. Carpenter got his whole idea from. Matter of fact, he bought the rights to it and everything, right, in order to do this film. And then we're going to have a heavy talk about whether we know if we are awake or if we're asleep. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me. Also, right quick, in the clip that we shared that happened in February, and today you also mentioned the camp, like where Roddy Piper character lived at. And that was like a homeless setting, even though, you know, where I feel like wherever I'm at, I'm home. But it was a homeless setting. And actually, John Carpenter and Roddy Piper both experienced homelessness. So it was actually, you know, close to home for both of them.
Yeah,
So
how
just
about
wanted to
that?
share that fun fact
It
find right quick.
it helps to be familiar with what the homeless goes through when you watch this film. All right.
Hmm.
Maybe do some YouTube on people who get out there and try to interview the homeless so you can see what it is that they're going through, how they even acquire work, if they have acquired work. Right? There's always these areas located all across town. Even, I think the setting here was even set in California, right?
Yep, yep.
And there was a term for this camp, which I can never get out of my mind. They call it Justiceville.
Mm.
And Frank and Nada was kind of having a hit and miss, you know, in their initial contact with one another because,
Yes.
you know, Nada didn't want to be followed. He didn't know this black guy, you know, but Frank was assertive, you know. One of the things I actually notated that particular experience because I thought there was a message there, and he was talking
Hmm.
about, you know, this place that we can go to. It's called, you know, Justiceville. That's a message right there, right?
Hmm.
But but before they ended up walking together, you know, they had a little argument, a little spat about I don't turn up nowhere with nobody I don't know. You got to see it for yourself. You know, he's talking about I don't go nowhere with nobody I don't know. You know, but they
Hmm.
get there, you know, and it seems like everyone knows Frank and they greeting him and everything. And right after that, John Carpenter wastes no time with these guys sitting down there eating their lunch, and then they start sharing their story. Right, it gets very eerie at that point.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. They talk about how the game is played, right? And we're gonna talk about that because it gets real eerie. But Justiceville, here we got this whole camp that people have come together to establish for themselves. They're feeding themselves. They got showers and all kinds of stuff. Even a church across,
Yes.
yeah, you know, which was a connection to some of their uh, underground network. So they got a guy. This is an elder who could pick up on a frequency. So you can see how John Carpenter is combining uh, the extra sensitive, because you always have an extra sensitive associate in your network and how they receive messages, right? So when they start broadcasting certain things, this guy's able to spread his message, bounce it off the frequency, and you could hear it through television or radio. You see, and so you got people sitting in the park experiencing it, not knowing what they're experiencing and catching on a little headache. So here, what you see, right, is how these guys they didn't had enough. This is a piece,
And they working together now.
and they're working together now. This is a piece from Nada when he's out there experiencing a life where he attempts to kill some of these extraterrestrials. That he actually kill some of them. So John Carpenter feels like he's not gonna, go through his movie without demonstrating that same storyline. He wanted to put it in there, and it gets very vicious and crucial. Street law, especially amongst people who are homeless, is you don't trust nobody. You don't trust nobody. And so the way uh, Rowdy Potter, uh, Rowdy Piper lost his life is like you forgot about that. You forgot
Hmm.
about that. And Frank most certainly forgot about that rule. They're putting in some serious work right here. But
Yes.
they messed around and trusted a woman.
Yep. Yeah.
can't help but Adam and Eve here, but they messed around.
Yeah,
and
that was
touched-
not Frank.
you see?
Yeah.
So Frank lost his life because he should have been sharp enough to understand. You know? Yeah. He should
Yeah,
have been
there
sharp.
you go.
This is the part where he's actually gonna, lose his life. But here we're talking about a people, right, making an effort to disrupt the frequency, right? You see? So he's sleeping. He got caught sleeping. He's slipping right there. He don't make it to the rooftop.
Right.
So he wants to destroy this satellite because he wants to disrupt the frequency. You know. So here's the question of the day: what can we do to just disrupt the frequency? That's going to be the hardest topic ever. And we'll probably end during that day with a little bit about the BlackTax Agency's proposal and talk about how it's going to take a collective, right, of people who lean on one another, people who rely on one another to break the frequency. So it's going to be harder than you think to maneuver on your daily life when there's subliminal messages taken around you all day, every second of your life, right? That we're simply underestimating, right? And you can't put a pressure number on. You can't put a power for pressure on this because you don't even know it's there. It's subliminal. You don't even know what it's doing, and everything you do, you think you're doing on your own accord. So think about that for a moment, right? Because right now, one of the major things people complain about, especially in the Black community, is how we are fragmented. Why we don't come together, why we don't unite, right? What are we missing? Every time you speak to certain people who seem to be conscious and awake, they say the same thing. Man, we gotta come together. It's like we know this, but somehow we're not able to pull the trigger on it. What's good? What's going on? We're underestimating something. You see?
Yeah.
So what can we do to break this frequency that must exist? Or are we just, are we using our imagination to say there's a frequency there that's not? Or are we not using imagination at all?
All right. Well, that's a great way to end this pre-show. That now exists because somebody called out Joy Allen for not following up. So we will be here Wednesday with the beginning of the series, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just wanted to get back up here on the platform, give everyone a heads up. Stay tuned. We'll be here Wednesday. Brother Z, again, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Let's go.
Let's go. Peace,
Paradise.
y'all. Peace. Paradise. Paradise. Y'all need to go get on that blacktax.com, blacktax.solutions. Get on that email list. We're going to see y'all Wednesday. Enjoy your day.